I was actually thinking of the Trunks, but it's not the best figure in the world. Who knows? I might end up having to dip my toes into a figure arts or maybe one of the third-party ones. He is one of my favourite characters, so he needs a decent figure. Hey, what's up people? It's TTC. And as you can see, I kind of caved and went and bought the Dragonball Dragonstars Super Saiyan Future Trunks figure from Bandai. After watching some other people's reviews of this guy, seeing all those different flaws and they all added up, I was determined I was definitely not buying this figure at all. I was looking at some of the figure arts versions online, even some of the third party ones like Tonson Toys and Demoniacal Fit, stuff like that. And they are really good, can't deny that. But for me, it's all about price. You know, I got 3 kids, I can't go spending 80, 90, even 100 quid on a figure that's going to be smaller scale than all the rest of them, and I'm going to have to wait weeks for it to get shipped over here from China. So in this particular case, maybe against my better judgment, being a cheapskate definitely won over quality here. Not to say that this is really bad quality, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't buy something that is crap. I'm not wasting my money like that. And obviously those other brands are like really high-end collectible brands, and even they've got flaws, none of them are perfect. I've had plenty of really bad figures in the past, and I don't think this is really bad, it's just not as good as it probably should be. I mean, I'll just say straight away, I would have much preferred him to look how he does in sort of Dragon Ball Z and any of the other earlier cartoons. You know, with the purple hair, sometimes longer hair, a different jacket, and not that stupid neckerchief thing around his neck. Obviously this is his look from Dragon Ball Super, where they changed it for some reason. And yeah, I just prefer his original look, to be honest. And I don't think I'm the only one. You know what? I think it's too easy to start complaining about this guy. I'm going to end up just ranting away already. So before we do that, let's grab him and take a closer look at that head sculpt. So we can start with a positive. In terms of sculpt, I don't think the face is actually that bad. I know I've seen a lot of people say that they really don't like any of the face sculpts on this line, but you know, for a bit cheaper, I actually think they're pretty good. I can definitely see this version of the character there. Yes, they're not figure arts quality, but they're not gonna be, are they? It's still pretty nicely done. Except there is one obvious weird issue, and it's this weird way they've done that hairline just running in a straight line across the head. Sort of makes all of his hair just look like he's got a weird hat on. After having it for a while and moving it around, you know, seeing it from different angles, it doesn't actually look awful. But there was probably a better way of doing that, let's be honest. And then of course, the hair itself, and let's not beat around the bush here, the elephant in the room, he looks like he's got a load of bananas on his head. I know this is more of a child-friendly line, they can't make everything really pointy and sharp, you don't want anyone stabbing their fingers and going crying to the mummy that Bandai hurt them. But maybe there was a better way of doing this. And there it is at the back, you know, less banana-y, it don't look awful. It's close enough to how it's supposed to look, I'm not going to complain about it. I personally would have enjoyed it if it was cast in that sort of translucent yellow plastic that they do some of the other Super Saiyan hairs in. Would have just added a little bit of extra cool factor and just hidden some of that soft sculpt a bit better. Having a look at his body, just straight up and down, head to toe. You know, it is pretty nicely sculpted, to be fair. It looks like what it's meant to be with all these buttons and wrinkles on his jacket. It's got a little battle damage tears in his sleeve and his leg there. Maybe not perfectly done, but it's a nice little touch. He's fairly well sculpted all the way around. He's just very skinny, you know, and not even like bony skinny, like flat. I suppose he is supposed to be like a teenager, so it makes sense to not have loads of muscle definition, but I don't know, just slightly weird looking. The pants are a half decent sculpt though, you know, I mean all those wrinkles and flowing bagginess, it definitely looks like baggy fabric pants. They've not done a bad job of that. In the top part of the boots here with the buckles, they look good, that looks exactly like what it's supposed to be and the colour's spot on. But these shoes, man. I mean, look at these feet here at the bottom of the shoes. You watch any Dragon Ball, you find any character, and just the art style, they're all done with sort of pointy toes, and for whatever reason, these have been really rounded off. Makes it look he's got like big clown shoes on. And they are pretty damn big as well. Like I assume that's obviously to help him stand up with balance and whatever. But if you have a look at him all the way round, just a little bit out of proportion, you know. Kind of looks a little stupid. He has got the strap going across his chest to hold the scabbard on his back. It's actually sculpted on, which I don't know if just years and years of collecting Marvel Legends, I find that impressive that it's not just painted on, so there's a positive. And it's pretty well done too, it looks like what it's meant to be. Problem is though, when you remove the sword off the back, that don't go anywhere. So now he's just got a belt across his chest for no reason. And of course, you know, looking at the back, you can't just leave it like that because then he's got a giant gaping hole in him. Honestly, it's the kind of thing I can overlook if I'm happy enough with the figure in general. Not 100% sure I am here, so I'm just going to have to choose to ignore that one, because it was a weird choice to do this that way. And then the other problem with this weirdly flat, skinny torso is it doesn't let you bend forward at all. And that's about as far as it goes back too. Like, look at that, just very limited articulation. If you have a look here, it has got, you know, just a ball in the socket. It usually works fairly well for these figures. But maybe it's the sculpt of the jacket, or like I said, just how flat he is. But yeah, that ain't going nowhere except side to side. And before I forget, I suppose the other elephant in the room with these figures is these giant pins in the shoulders, man. Like, why do that? No other company needs to do it that way. At some point in the future, and you know, I do hope that this line continues, because it's good enough. But I hope that they figure out how to do shoulders without having these massive visible holes here. So when it comes to accessories, he's got the usual alternate hands. I keep all mine in this bag here, so let's have fun rummaging through these and trying to figure out which ones actually belong to him. Alright, if I get these wrong, it's not my fault, they all come with really similar hands. So first off, he's got these two closed fists, which are all just exactly the same as all the other fists that come in this line. Nicely done. Two open grabby hands for holding the sword, which they do hold it pretty nicely, but thanks to the crap articulation, he's not going to be holding it with both hands at the same time. And finally, two of these open, gesturing, sort of key blast hands. You know, pretty standard for this line, they're nicely done. Then of course, the important thing with Trunks is his sword. I actually think this is pretty nicely done, you know, it looks like what it's meant to be. It's very thick, which isn't necessarily a problem, you know, you don't want it snapping. Mine's got a little bit bent in the packaging, but just a little bit of heat can straighten that right out. The handle's done in this sort of greeny brown wrap, the pommel and the crossguard painted in white. I don't think they could have done anything better with this really. It is what it is. Definitely fits in his hands pretty nicely. Doesn't take much squeezing to get in there. And he holds it well enough. It's definitely not just going to fall out. But unfortunately, that's sort of where it goes off the rails a bit again. So as you saw before, he's also got the sheath that goes on his back. Looks pretty good for what it is, just done in this sort of brown plastic, which I think is the right colour. No problems with that in particular. But the way they've gone about this sword, right? Just, can't explain this one. Obviously, with the sword being that thick, it's never going to slot actually into the holster here. So they took this just really confusing route of having this little fake sword that just sort of sticks in the end to make it look like it's in there, when really it's nothing but the handle and this weird little block on the end. Why do that? I do not understand. Like, obviously this is not going to fit over that, yeah, we get that. But I think personally I would have preferred just to make the sheath thicker then. So when it's on his back like that and he's got the sword out, you know, there you go, fine, that looks alright. Or you can take the sword out of his hand, put it away in there. And there you go, just have it like that on his back so it looks like it's put away. It's not awful. I just still think it was a really weird way of going about it. This is actually a re-release of this figure as well. In the original one, you couldn't actually take that part out of the scabbard. So people were getting really annoyed because he'd end up with it in his hand like this and on his back at the same time, like as if he had like two swords. So, in one way I suppose I'm lucky, I'm glad they fixed that by the time I bought this version of it. And I suppose, being fair, the sword being painted silver, that it would have only taken 2 or 3 attempts of putting it in and out of the sheath that it would have just scratched all of that off. Right, let's stop complaining, get some comparisons done. So here we've got him with the Super Saiyan Broly version of Vegeta. I think they look pretty good together, you know, there's definitely a height difference. He's just a little bit taller than him. I think that works pretty spot on. And then here's the Super Saiyan Goku figure on the other side, and yep. If you're talking specifically heights, then I think these work really well together, you know. it should go from shortest at that end, and then Trunks in the middle, and yep, tallest at the end. I think they all look pretty damn good together. And it's what I was saying before, you know, if they'd done Trunks' hair in this sort of translucent yellow plastic that the other two have got, I think that would have made it look just a lot better in my opinion. I kind of hope they do that with all of them moving forward. And then for some other comparisons, here's a Marvel Legends X-Men 97 Bishop for another time-traveling character with a red bandana around his neck and a blue costume and a holster on his back. And then we got the Marvel Legends Extremist Iron Man on the other side. Obviously you can see Hasbro have always had a slightly different idea of what 6 inches means to other lines. They're always just slightly a bit taller. Which, right here at least, I really don't mind that actually. It just makes him look a lot younger standing in the middle of these two. Don't that shiny red on Iron Man look really good under these lights? And despite the definitely limited articulation on these Dragon Ball figures, they definitely do look good stood in a power-up pose. So yeah, very strongly mixed feelings on this guy. Like the sword is really well done, but then the whole scabbard on the back thing, weird choice to me. The costume's pretty well sculpted, but probably not my preference. Did a not bad job of the face sculpt and the hair, you know, apart from the banana hat. You win some, you lose some. To me, I definitely think this is more of a child-friendly line. I don't think it's super childish, but it's never going to be high-end, and I'm okay with that. I've got a limited budget, and as much as I like Dragon Ball, I'm not a super fan. Like, it's not my priority when it comes to collecting, so these ones are definitely good enough for me. But let's be honest, I do wish that this guy was just slightly better though. I would like a base form version of him with the purple hair, but they went and bloody changed his hair colour to blue in Super, didn't they? Don't know why, definitely preferred it purple. I also don't really want to buy what is basically the same figure just for a different head. In a perfect world, I'd just come across the head somewhere and buy that on its own and then just paint the hair purple. And I might do that if I ever just stumble across it on its own, but I suppose the chances of that happening are probably pretty slim. So don't forget to like this video, drop us a comment down below letting us know what you think of this guy. I am very curious about people's opinions on this one. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, make sure you do so. I still have a few more Dragon Ball bits that I'm looking for, so if you've been enjoying the Dragon Ball content, there's definitely some more coming. And if you haven't, don't worry, we'll be back to the more Star Wars and Marvel based videos soon. There's also a comic fair coming up in town at the end of the month. I will be going to that with my camera, maybe a little bit of spending money, see if we can find anything decent, so keep your eyes peeled for that. But until then, I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers!